An Italian passenger liner named Antonio sails the waters of the Atlantic. It is May 21, 1962, and there are more than 1,100 people aboard the ship. On the ship, a singer named Francesca is singing a beautiful love song and the passengers are dancing a slow dance. A girl named Katie is approached by the captain of the liner and asks the girl to dance. Suddenly, someone pulls the winch lever. The steel cable stretched around the ship's foredeck, where all the people are dancing, begins to wind up on the spool. Due to the strong tension of the cable, the attachment breaks, and the cable moves abruptly across the deck through the dancing crowd. For a few seconds, all the passengers freeze, and a moment later, people begin to fall apart. Kathy stands in an embrace with the captain. The girl raises her head and sees a terrible picture. A piercing scream breaks the dead silence. We are transported to the present day, where a salvage team from the tugboat Arctic Warrior is bringing a floating oil platform into port, which suddenly gets a new breach in its side. Captain Murphy orders the platform to be unhooked from the tugboat and for the crew to return to the ship. But Epps disobeys the captain's orders and dives into the water to patch the hole in the platform. In the end, our team succeeds, and the whole team swims to the port with the platform. Our heroes are celebrating their return after 6 months at sea. The whole crew of sailors is about to go on vacation, but they are approached by a certain Jack. The man introduces himself as a pilot of the Canadian Weather Service and tells the team that making a patrol flight over Mackenzie Bay, found a huge ship, which just drifted along the current and did not respond to radio signals. Jack offers our team information in exchange for 20% of the booty found on the ship. Murphy negotiates this offer with his crew. After receiving unanimous agreement from the team, the man makes a counteroffer to Jack in the form of 10%. Jack agrees, and the team sets out to find the mysterious ship. A few days into the voyage, during a storm, the captain notices a large ship on the radar, which disappears and reappears. No one makes contact. Suddenly, this huge ship appears right in front of our crew. There is no way to avoid a collision and the tug crashes into the side of the ship. The captain examines the ship and realizes that it is the liner Antonio, which disappeared 40 years ago under mysterious circumstances. The liner has rusted over the years and all the lifeboats have disappeared. Murphy says that there were no alarm signals from the ship, as the liner simply disappeared. Later, the captain says that means that by maritime law the liner is all theirs. Overjoyed by this find, several crew members board the lost ship. The crew surveys deck after deck trying to figure out what happened to the ship and its crew. Suddenly, the floor collapses beneath Mander's feet, but Epps manages to grab the man's arm. As the crew pulls Mander upstairs, Epps notices through the breach Katie, who is standing on the lower deck looking at the girl. In the next instant, however, the girl disappears. Pulling her partner out, Epps thinks the girl is just a vision. As Murphy and his team continue to explore the liner, they gradually become convinced that the ship has been visited before them. This is evidenced by an electronic clock found in the wheelhouse, which did not appear until after 1962. The crew returns to the tugboat and decide that after repairing the damage they received in the collision with their tugboat, they will hitch the liner to themselves and tow it to port, where they will receive a huge sum of money for the liner. The next day, after examining the ship underwater, the team discovers a small breach that causes the liner to slowly sink. The team devises a plan of action, and Santos, the motorist, is left to fix the tugboat's engine. The rest of the team goes up to the liner and splits up to examine it better. Epps finds shell casings and bullet marks in the swimming pool, and while climbing up, the woman bumps into the girl again and then, frightened, falls down. Jack comes to the noise and helps Epps climb back up. After the couple leave, the whole pool is filled with scarlet liquid, and people are swimming in it. At this time, all of the team's walkie-talkies malfunction, and the team begins to hear someone singing on their radios. A little later, Jack and Epps discover a mountain of bodies from months ago in the laundry room. At this time, Greer finds an unsmoked cigarette in a woman's lipstick, but thinking it's Epps, the man walks away and doesn't notice the woman in the red dress. The next find is even more incredible, as our team discovers several crates of gold bars. Murphy repeats to everyone that under maritime law, this find belongs to the crew. Then the captain gives the order to load the gold onto a tugboat and leave the liner. Before the loading of the gold can begin, however, a gas cylinder valve in the engine room of the Arctic Warrior opens by itself. At this point, Epps sees Katie again, running across the deck and yelling for them not to start the engine. However, it is too late and a terrible explosion occurs, resulting in the sinking of the tugboat and the death of Santos. After recovering from the shock, our crew realizes that they can no longer leave the liner. They come to the conclusion that they have only one possibility to save themselves, and that is to fix the holes in the bottom of the ship, then pump the water out of it and try to repair the engine. But it is not possible to do all this at night, so the repair work is postponed until the morning. During the night, however, a total horror begins to happen. Dodge and Mander open some old canned food found on the ship. Tasting the food, it seems incredibly tasty to the guys, but then the canned food turns into a mass of maggots. At this time, Epps, interested in Katie's identity, finds the girl's name on the liner's passenger list. The woman goes to the girl's quarters and there she discovers Katie's dead body with a noose around her neck. The girl's ghost also appears. The ghost tells Epps the whole truth. It turns out that Antonio's liner is a trap, a ghost ship, and everyone on it has been dead for a long time, but their souls cannot leave the liner until a certain number of souls are collected. After these words, someone doesn't let the girl finish, and Katie suddenly disappears with a heartbreaking scream. A drunken Greer finds himself as if in the past. The man meets singer Francesca, who lures the guy into a trap. Greer falls down an elevator shaft, at which point the lady says welcome aboard and her face becomes old and wrinkled. Murphy in turn meets the ghost of the ship's captain. They have a rather nice conversation, and the man learns that 2 days before the disaster, a cargo of gold from another shipwreck was hoisted onto the liner. Murphy asks if anyone from that ship was rescued. The liner's captain nods affirmatively and gestures that there was one survivor. Then the captain gives Murphy a photograph, and upon seeing it, the man's face changes dramatically. Exiting the captain's quarters, Murphy is confronted by the ghost of the dead Santos. The ghost attacks Murphy. Meanwhile, Epps appears, but Murphy sees instead of the girl, Santos, and tries to kill her. However, at the very last moment, the captain is stunned by Jack. The rest of the team throws Murphy into an empty fish tank, as they believe the man is a threat to the team. The rest of the crew discusses the way forward, and Epps instructs the boys to pump water out of the engine room after they've caulked all the breaches. After fixing some of the liner's malfunctions, Epps goes in search of Greer. However, the girl finds him already dead. At that moment Katie appears again, and taking Epps by the hand, allows the girl to see everything that happened on the liner that fateful evening. It turns out that most of the crew of the liner, headed by the senior assistant captain, decided to take all the gold for themselves, and to get rid of witnesses, they kill all the passengers and the rest of the crew. They poison some of the passengers with rat poison during dinner. The rest of the passengers were chopped up by a cable, and some of the passengers were shot in front of the pool. After a gruesome massacre, the captain's chief mate, unwilling to share the gold with anyone, traitorously shoots his own accomplices. After that, the traitor himself is killed by Francesca. And the woman, in turn, is killed by a man. When the stranger turns his face, Epps recognizes the man, for it turns out to be Jack. Epps returns to Murphy, but discovers that the captain is already dead and the aquarium is completely filled with water. At that moment, the very photograph that the ghost had given him slips out of the captain's hand. The photo is of Jack, the only survivor of the wreck, who was helped by the liner's crew. Epps begins to realize that she and her crew have fallen into a cleverly planned trap. Jack lured them here to fix the ship after the liner suffered a small breach. Then, while pumping water out of the engine room, Munder dies. At this time, Jack provokes Dodge to shoot him with a shotgun. However, when the guy moves away from the body, we see that Jack turns out to be alive. Next we see Epps planting explosives on the ship. Dodge approaches the girl and tells her that he killed Jack. The girl tells the man that she is going to sink the ship with the explosives. However, during the conversation, Epps realizes that it is not her partner standing in front of her at all. Jack also realizes that the girl has realized the deception, takes his form, and says that he killed Dodge. Then the man confesses that he is a hunter of souls, which he sends directly into the jaws of the fiery hyena. However, if the ship sinks before Jack collects a certain number of souls, then his management will be very displeased. Jack offers Epps a deal, the girl's life in exchange for the ship, but the girl refuses. Despite Jack's fierce resistance, Epps still manages to detonate an explosive device that blows everything apart. The liner begins to sink to the bottom, but Katie shows the girl a way out of the sinking ship. Epps resurfaces and sees the freed souls, victims of the ghost ship, turn into blue lights and fly upwards. Soon the barely alive girl is picked up by a nearby passenger liner. The orderlies carry Epps to the shore, and the girl casts her glance at the ship and sees how several people bring the familiar crates with gold to the ship on the gangway. And following the crates is Jack. This is the end of the movie. Thank you all for watching this movie to the end. Give this video a like. Write in the comments what you think about this movie, and see you in new videos.